City Current. Produced by Dakota Media Access. In-depth discussion with Bismarck and Mandan city officials. Watch on Government Access Channel 602 HD or tune in to Radio Access 102.5 FM. Always local, always current.
Welcome to City Current. I'm Tom Gerhardt with Dakota Media Access, joined by Jason Tomanek, the city administrator for the city of Bismarck. Good to see you, Jason.
Glad to be here, Tom. Thank you.
Yes, that was extra hours at the meeting last night until about 9:30, I think, and then executive session. So it was a long meeting, but a very productive one.
We had a full day. We had a lot of good items on the agenda last night. A lot of good discussion.
Well, we'll highlight a few of the things that we're going to be talking about coming up, including the Ottawa Street reconstruction project, which is up in that Plant Perfect Sky Zone area, which is old Highway 83.
Old Highway 83.
Got a little history lesson last night on that. Police Chief Dave Dreyevich is retiring at the end of July. Some future fire station analysis, show you a couple maps of where some future fire stations will be and tell you what happened last night. And then Misty Waters, that saga continues. So we'll get into that, as well as a number of other topics from last night's City Commission meeting. Did want to let folks know that starting last night, Quinn from our staff here has produced a nice graphic, so we'll be starting meetings off. This just had the date of May 6th, which actually wasn't a City Commission meeting. This was just a graphic that we were working on, but we do televise live over 300 government meetings a year, and then we archive them so you can always go back and watch them. And we thought a lot of people, we put a QR code on here because we thought a lot of people on their pontoons this summer may want to watch the City Commission meetings.
Why wouldn't
from
you?
The river, right?
Of course.
So,
we're better to consume municipal government than on the river.
So we're in lockstep thinking that way. On the consent agenda last night, just a couple items I thought would be fun to talk about, and one you noted is Bismarck Expressway has that pedestrian underpass, and they're looking to put a mural in there, and we have a couple of drawings of what that could look like. That's a place I've used a lot as a jogger and a biker and a walker, so it'll be fun to see what that could look like here in the near future.
Definitely will brighten up the corridor. There'll be obviously some work to do ahead of time, some prep work to get it cleaned up and ready to go. And I believe the two artists that are working together on this are Nicole Gagner and Painter Nicole. Many may know her as. I know she teaches a variety of classes in the community, has some other murals that she has been a part of, and Molly McLean as well. And so Molly is another very accomplished professional local artist, and so looking forward to the work that those two women are going to do. It's going to be fantastic, and looking forward to seeing how it all comes together at the end. Yeah,
it just does make such a difference when you go through those spaces, and usually I'm just worried about getting done with my run and if I'll make it to the finish, but that'll be something to look forward to along the path. Also wanted to talk about the annual deer and turkey licenses for the bow hunting, and you noted that this is a very, I think it's limited to 20 licenses.
It is.
These are sought after.
They are, yes. And so in the past, there have been 25 licenses that were issued. And what we're talking about here is, as you mentioned, bow hunting for either deer or turkey. And this is within city limits. There can be years or seasons where there's troubles with the populations of deer and turkey in that Riverwood Golf Course area, those natural areas where we're kind of impeding on the river and the corridor as well. And so annually, the Bismarck Police Department has issued licenses to hunt those critters during certain times of the year. This year, it should be noted, the number of licenses is limited now to 20. Based on the harvest from last year, the quantities are smaller. So if you're interested, you better get there early. I believe the sale starts at 6 a.m. And I want to say it was June 17th, I think was the date for that. I'm not entirely certain, but there will be an announcement from the Bismarck Police Department when that's going out. So if you're interested in trying to procure a hunting license in city limits, you better get there early. Yep.
And I don't know if it's just me, but, we're both grew up here. The turkeys seem to be all over lately.
There seems to be an abundance of them. Yeah, and I've heard reports and I've seen firsthand there's a few places that feed them, which will encourage the flock to get larger over time. So
Well, check that out if you're interested. The regular agenda was full of items that of interest, and I guess we'll start with the Misty Water zoning map amendment. And in some ways, I guess this is kind of a broken record, but in other ways, it continues to evolve. And last night, very passionate residents from that area talking about this zoning map amendment. And so tell us what happened last night. Like I said, a lot of passionate people, as you saw at the podium, worried about their property and the North Dakota Supreme Court ruling and just all these things that go into it. And then where we stand coming out of last night and what the city now will be looking to do in the coming weeks.
yes, there's definitely a lot of moving parts here, and there have been a lot of iterations, a lot of changes over the years, and I think it should be noted too that there are a number of homes within the Misty Water subdivision that are built appropriately. They're within the setbacks. They're not encroaching in any stormwater easements or any of the LOMAR, which is a flood term, a letter of map revision. It's a line on a map to avoid. There are a good number of homes out there that are perfectly fine. There are a small handful of homes that over the years have had some encumbrances or some encroachments into these areas, and it comes down to an interpretation of where are these lines on the ground, where are the homes positioned, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, the saga will continue for a little bit longer. What we heard last night was testimony on both sides. Some were opposed to the proposed changes, and the changes were proposed by City of Bismarck staff to try and unify as many of the homes and the zoning district that applies in place. There were some folks that had concerns with the proposed changes. There were a good number of property owners that stood in support of the changes just to kind of put an end to the means in many ways. But as the commission tries to do in many cases, it's trying to resolve all the issues. And although there were many in support of one resolution, it maybe didn't work for a few others. And so I think where the commission's direction was back to community development, to Ben Arith and his staff, is to identify these kind of the one-offs, the very unique situations, and find a way to address them so everyone is made whole in those situations. There are no loss of land. In one case, a gentleman was referring to the easement line moving, and it would effectively render about 900 square feet of his property different than it would be today. And sometimes that term is referred to as a taking. I'm not going to get into the legal matters of all of that, but understanding that he wasn't comfortable with the resolution that many others were. So the commission trying to make the best out of this entire situation, also looking for an end to these means. I believe we will see this come back, if I heard Mr. Arith correctly, the first meeting in June. Commissioner Connolly had asked for some more conversations between staff and the property owners. I guess ultimately, best case scenario, if we can get to that meeting in June or sometime thereabout, and everyone that was in the room last night comes to that next meeting and says, we can live with this. That sounds like the best compromise for all parties involved. We aren't looking to drag this out any longer, make it any worse than it has been. I think staff is very interested in a resolution and then a solid plan moving forward, because there are still vacant lots that will have homes built on them in the future.
And we did have a proposed zoning change map up from last night. I guess in some senses that's old news now as we're moving forward from that. But that darker black line was the proposed change, if I understood correctly last night.
Correct.
So now in some senses, not totally back to the drawing board, but as you mentioned, I think Ben and his staff are going to take a look at this again and then come back in June. So hopefully there's some resolution to this in the coming weeks. Another big project that I guess could start construction, not to jump ahead, in 2026 is the Ottawa Street reconstruction project, which, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, is an old part of highway, and basically from Plant Perfect and Sky Zone are two
Zone.
well-known properties
North
along
Dakota Stockmen's
that
Association.
route. The Stockmen's Association built that brand new, beautiful building up there as well, and so the highlighted portion is what would be under construction, and so more engineering came to the podium last night to explain, and it sounds like from last night's meeting that they've done a tremendous job with this plan, but there's some heartburn here too as well.
A couple of different concerns brought forward. We've got a very unique mix of uses along this little corridor. Retail, office uses. We also have some residential on the far north end. We've got some condos that are there. And so we heard from business owners, a representative of the Homeowners Association for the condo, and concerns that I heard. First, this is a common concern, and it's an understood concern in this situation, is the impact through special assessments. The estimates for the cost of this project, it's a $4 million build, roughly a little over $4.3 million. When you spread that out, we're looking at the percentage of property those particular individuals own along that corridor, and that's how the specials get spread. And with the condo situation, we heard it could impact an individual unit as much as $15,000 to $17,000. We heard from a commercial property owner that he was looking at an assessment more like $700,000 for the Plant Perfect site. And when you think about the size of Plant Perfect along Ottawa Street, it's one of the larger parcels. But also, I heard that particular individual say a good bit of their business is occupying about 30 days of an entire year.
I think 50%, he said.
So some of the other concerns that he raised, and we all understand this, times of the year, parking is at a premium. And they currently, the roadway section does not have parking. It's just a 2-lane road with a ditch on both sides. The two alternatives that were proposed was a 32-foot roadway section, which wouldn't really allow for a lot of parking,
Right. We have pictures of those too.
or a 40-foot section, which could enable a little more of that street parking. And the parking wouldn't just be on the street for Plant Perfect. It was noted that there are other businesses that often will have events or activities and will cause people to park in each other's parking lots. And so it sounds like the neighborhood all shares some of the same concerns, and I think the commission was listening very closely last night. We've got a very unique situation here with an urban corridor that is essentially a rural road. And so we're recognizing there needs to be some work done here. I think the ask from most of the folks that testified were to find another way or find an additional way to help offset some of the expense of this particular build-out. And I think the commission, that resonates with the commissioners. We're not looking to cripple a business owner with a $60,000 annual special assessment over 15 years. That can be a lot. And so I'm not going to suggest a different number. I don't know what that right formula is. That's the role of the engineers and the commissioners to try and come back with a proposal that is something that everyone can support.
And I believe the alternative B, the 40...
Alternative A was do nothing, just leave it as
Yep.
is. Alternative B was 32 feet of roadway, and alternative C is a 40-foot roadway, which could have parking or a center turn lane.
And is that, am I remembering right, that the 40-foot wide was advanced
That's the
last
preferred
night?
recommendation.
The preferred recommendation.
Correct.
With also, I think, the direction, as you mentioned, to find some help with these, to offset some of the expense with the special assessments. There would be parking on one side of the 40-foot with the potential for parking on the other side, if I understood right, and the potential to add a turn lane down the road with that wider width. So really interesting presentation last night, and I know that corridor really needs some help. Sidewalks, wider
Absolutely.
roads,
Yep.
potholes. I think the highway goes back to the 20. Or
I believe I heard the late 20s.
late 20s, right? Yeah.
So it's 100 years plus that
That's-
people have been using that corridor, and it's definitely time
Yeah.
to fix things up over there.
We heard a really interesting, a pretty brief presentation, but on this methane gas capture project at the city landfill, and it's essentially a company could come in, capture some of this natural methane gas, the city would get a portion of the proceeds for some additional revenue. Talk about that project.
Yeah, that's an interesting proposal. I was actually part of the group that evaluated the various proposals from multiple consultants. Where we're going forward with is an established company that has a number of other sites where they're operating currently. And we're not talking about the active landfill where we're currently, filling with household trash. We're talking about the retired landfills, the old cell sites that have been capped. There's grass over the top of them. There's hayland on them. They're talking about coming in and putting a network of wells throughout that system and capturing that naturally occurring methane. The methane occurs through the decomposition of the household trash that is there. The methane would be captured, injected into a pipeline, and pushed somewhere else for all of its consumptions from there. And the proposal that it's Tariva Renewables is the name of the entity that was recommended for approval. A portion of their revenue, between 10 and 20%, depending on the quality of the gas, would come back to the city of Bismarck as a profit share, essentially, is what it would be. So an interesting way for the city to capitalize another one of its resources. There's obviously concerns with decommissioning down the road, what happens if they just abandon it. That was discussed by the commissioners. There would be a surety bond or a reclamation bond that would be posted at the beginning of the project. If at any time the company were to dissolve, fail, go away, whatever, that bond would be then used to extract all those materials and decommission the site and things like that. So we are by no means the first community to be doing this. I believe our friends over on the east side of the state in Fargo have been doing methane capture at their landfill for a number of years. But for us, this is a great opportunity. It's a fun little project, and we'll see how this proceeds.
And I think the number, and again, subject to change, a couple $100,000 a year, potentially more. So, I mean, you're talking about a nice little chunk of money there, too.
Definitely. And the landfill, the collections and distribution, that's the two divisions within the landfill. What we refer to the landfill as an enterprise fund. So in other words, it is not supported through property tax. It is supported exclusively through the fees that we pay for disposal and the fees that anyone pays to dump trash at the landfill. So this would offset, it would become another piece of revenue for the landfill to continue to operate. It's not cheap running a municipal solid waste facility, and we have one of very limited number of landfills like ours in the state of North Dakota. So we actually accept trash from a pretty good sized region around Bismarck. Basically within 50, 60 miles, the next municipal landfill like ours is going to be Jamestown. So if you're a smaller town and you don't have your own regional landfill like this, your garbage is coming to Bismarck. So this is another way to just help continue to increase revenue for the landfill operations.
Future fire station conversation. So Chief was there last night, and we have a map that shows the current 5 stations in Bismarck, and you can see them right there. But of course, as our community continues to grow, the need for more fire stations becomes obvious. What I found interesting last night is, and I won't get all the terminology right, but the chief talking about response time and how, if they can meet criteria, it can actually save the city a lot of money. So it's not just like, hey, let's build fire stations just to build fire stations. That there can be a real savings to the city, and obviously safety being the top priority.
Absolutely.
Of residents and property, but second is if you can save some money along the way, that makes a difference too.
Definitely. And this was a great discussion. I like planning projects. I like looking forward, and I really appreciate all the research and the data that Chief Baseflug and his team pulled together to support the recommendation that came forward last night. As you mentioned, 5 stations strategically placed throughout town. What really drives the conversation for the next fire station is primarily growth, and then right after growth, it's response times. And so our fire department, the Bismarck Fire Department, is an ISO rating of 1. And what does that mean? That means they have excellent response times, but it translates to property owners in a reduced fire insurance, reduced property insurance, because the response times are good. The insurance companies say you've got a wonderful fire system, you're less of a risk than some areas. So that's a good message for the citizens. What we heard last night is there are parts of South Bismarck, particularly Southwest Bismarck, that are getting beyond the comfortable response times for our fire department. Our comfortable response time is 4 to 6 minutes. We've got areas where the call times are getting closer to 8-9 minutes, and that's for the first firefighters to show up. There's a second truck that comes to support an active fire, and so then we're talking maybe 12 minutes by that time. That's getting to be a little beyond our comfort level. And so through an analysis that the fire department did along with our GIS staff, our mapping staff, they analyzed a variety of different sites in South Bismarck that could be considered for a future fire station. And fortunately for us, the site that makes the most amount of sense is along Burley Avenue, and it's on property that the city of Bismarck already owns. It's part of the wastewater treatment plant system. And it's amazing the graphics that Joel shared, how placing a station in that particular location really alleviates all of their, I shouldn't say all, but many of their concerns in that southwest portion of Bismarck. And it's not just rooftops that are being analyzed, it's also the density, other uses in that area. Are there commercial activities? Are there high hazard or high risk situations that could cause a fire response? And so looking at all of that data and information, it became very apparent that the next station isn't in northeast or northwest Bismarck, where we're also growing, but it's actually South Bismarck. And the other thing it does, so we refer to it as Station 2. Many people realize it's the fire station on Expressway. That would be the first fire station to respond to this location currently. With the incorporation of a new station on Burley Avenue, it actually allows the boundaries of Station 2 on Expressway to shift and move further north, and it really alleviates some of the response time concerns in the middle part of Bismarck as well. So it's amazing what data can help guide your decisions and really influence, the important features that we are providing as far as services go. But ultimately, the way we ended things last night, the request was to put out a request for proposals for an architectural firm to start to analyze a site, begin designing some concepts, and start putting some estimates together. The other request from the fire chief was to reach out to the neighborhood and say, we'd like to be a part of this neighborhood, and have those conversations. What should the fire station look like? Should it resemble more of a residential style fire station like we have on Tyler Parkway? Or would it be more of a commercial industrial type look like you would see on Expressway? Given the neighborhood to the south, I have an idea of what that fire station might look like in the future, but it'll be fun to go through the process of design and really look at what do the 5 fire stations offer today, what should the 6th one offer as far as for the firefighters' needs, the city's needs, because each station has its own kind of area of expertise and its own specialty. So how does all of that start getting incorporated with the greater department as a whole?
Yeah, it's extraordinarily interesting, and something that caught my attention last night too is Chief Baselug saying, I think that they try and get to the fire in terms of response time to maintain to the room
of origin,
which is really an extraordinary response time and an extraordinary goal. So that kind of provided me with a lot of perspective of what they're trying to do and how quickly they need to get there and safely at the same time. And that map, again, really interesting. That southwest corner will be the next fire station, but then you could see up in northeast Bismarck, I believe the city owns land there already as
Correct.
well, if I understood right, and then not in northwest part of town, but the plan is well in action now to, I think firefighters have already been hired, a truck's already been purchased, and so the planning there is all in place.
You're right, and it's interesting you said a truck has already been purchased. The lead time on a fire truck is 1.5 to 2 years, and so we have been under the impression that there will be a new fire station in the not too distant future. And Commissioner Cleary commented on it last night. For many of us, because of the land purchase in Silver Ranch, many were under the impression the next fire station would be northeast. And I think for a long time, Chief Baseflug even was kind of leaning in that direction just because of the growth that's happening. When you start applying the data and really looking at how the response is working, we're going to shift our focus a little bit. It's not to say we won't be building a fire station in Northeast Bismarck. It just won't be the next fire station in Northeast Bismarck.
Well, along the lines of serving and protecting, our police chief, Dave Drayevich, has announced his retirement. I believe he's hoping to walk out of the police station at the end of July, and so that obviously opens the question of who will become the next police chief, and that process is underway. So tell us what you talked about last night.
Sure. So Chief Drayevich's last day, July 31st, that'll be 36 years of dedicated service to the city of Bismarck. So thank you, Dave, for all of that. Dave started out as an officer and worked his way up through a number of different leadership roles, and he's a great person, a very humble guy. He is leaving a department that's in great shape. He's got 2 deputy chiefs in Jason Stugelmeyer and Randy Ziegler, who both have extensive experience and will do a nice job transitioning as well. But to your question, how do we get to the next chief? That's what the discussion was last night. And so we have a process that we go through for department director positions, and it's fairly extensive. I personally have been exposed to that and a part of it a number of times. And for us, we will also reach out to other leaders within law enforcement, people like the Burley County Sheriff Kelly Lieben. I think Sheriff Lieben has a wonderful perspective of the Bismarck Police Department and how the 2 agencies engage and interact. We just talked about him, the fire chief, Joel Baseflug. I think his perspective on the new chief is very important because of the way first responders interact and the way those 2 departments are so integral to our organization. So we will lean on the expertise of some others, but we will also stand behind the process that we have used to get to other directors. And I trust that hopefully by mid-July, we should have some interviews in place and we should have some wonderful candidates. I don't doubt that we will see a myriad of applications. I know when Dave interviewed for the chief position in 2018, the 2 other gentlemen that interviewed with him, one was from Kansas City and the other was from Roswell, New Mexico. So clearly, the police chief in any community is a very prominent position, a very important position, and I take this very seriously, knowing that role has an influence on our community safety, the officers that serve in that department, and just as a department director within the organization. So looking forward to this, looking forward to working with the mayor and Commissioner Risch and Leanne Schmidt, our HR director, and let the process begin, I guess.
And you said this job will be posted soon, I think, and then close in early June. Was that right?
I believe so. Generally, we'll leave the position open about 3 weeks, and our HR staff does a really nice job of putting that notification out there, whether it be on LinkedIn, our social media. There are other professional platforms that they partner with to get the message out. So we won't be just talking to the people in Bismarck. We do a really broad search when we're looking for directors because it's an important role and we want to make sure we attract the best candidates.
Well, just a congratulations to Chief. I worked with him in my past life at KX and also in Runners Against Destructive Decisions, and just like you said, a humble guy. Really out there to serve the community. So 36 years, that's
it's a long time to do anything. He's probably been with the Bismarck Police Department longer than some of the officers have been alive.
Yeah. Well, we're all at that point now.
not to humble him or make fun or make light of it, but I think today, in today's workforce, I'll be very interested to see if those coming into the workforce have that longevity with an organization. And I think it's a testament to Dave and his character, but it's also it's a good representation of us as an organization that we really rely on that long-term dedication because it's all about delivery of service.
Yeah. Just a couple other things we wanted to talk about. Remind folks the mayor's prayer breakfast is May 20th at 7 a.m. at the Radisson, and so suddenly it's mid-May. We're just around the corner.
Proceeds from the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast go to support the Crisis Care Chaplaincy, which, if you're not familiar with what that is, I would encourage you to check out one of the most recent episodes of Bismarck Insights.
Great car.
Mayor Mike Schmidt sat down with Greg Carr and talked a lot about the chaplaincy and how they support first responders, families that are in crisis when there are terrible situations. So it's noble work that they do, and we often see the chaplains at the onset of every city commission meeting. They start with the invocation, but to Greg and his team of volunteers, thanks for what they do.
Yeah, and General, I can't call him General Dorman anymore. We got to call him Al or Alan, I guess. But former Adjutant General for North Dakota will be the featured speaker, and his dry sense of humor will be, I'm sure, well appreciated.
Yeah, bright and early in the morning. Yeah, it's usually a great turnout, and again, a wonderful event to support the crisis care chaplaincy.
We haven't had time, or a chance, I should say, to talk about Red, White, and Boom. I mean, we kind of talked about some plans were in the works to keep the 4th of July celebration alive. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I know you were a part of making this happen, so thank you for that as a citizen of Bismarck. But tell us a few things about Red, White, and Boom. And
so this will be the first time, at least to my knowledge, that a 4th of July celebration hasn't occurred at the North Dakota Capitol grounds. So for 30 years plus, the Bismarck Mandan Symphony Orchestra hosted thousands of people annually to an event at the 4th of July at the Capitol grounds. Fireworks, full symphony, other musicians, dignitaries. It was a wonderful event. The symphony had decided to move away from that event, and other things happening at the Capitol. Of course, the North Dakota State Lab construction, the building that's under construction today used to be the site where fireworks would be launched. And so a number of factors came together, and when I learned that there wasn't a plan for a celebration in 2025, I got nervous because my wife and I, my family and I, we have taken that event in many, many times over the years, and I think it is such a great opportunity to bring the community together. So I asked a few other community leaders if they had concerns without a 4th of July event, and the overwhelming response was absolutely. We need to figure out a way to do something. So I'm very, very fortunate to work with some influential people that know other influential people, and we can get some stuff done. And I'm very pleased to say that we will be moving the 4th of July event in Bismarck, North Dakota to the MDU Resources Community Bowl. And it will be a family-friendly event with lots of activities, lots of events. There will be some opportunity for some concessions, snacks, beverages, all of the like, but we will still have some of the classic features. We will have the Bismarck Mandan Symphony Orchestra playing celebratory music in conjunction with a wonderful fireworks display. And I would like to tease the audience to know that the fireworks display will be using the same vendor that we've used in the past, but because of the location change, there are some things that he can do a little bit differently. And so the fireworks show this year should be bigger and better than it's been in the past. And I'm really looking forward to that part too.
all right, well, now, yeah, we're all hooked now. Can't wait.
Yep.
Yeah, and my family, we've loved that event, so really happy to see it alive. And change, it's one constant, right? So
Yep.
really look forward to this event. Also wanted to mention the police auction coming up in May, just to let folks know they can. You said that's going to be out at the
Impound, just south of the landfill on 52nd Street, May 17th. So this coming Saturday, you have an opportunity to buy or to bid on vehicles, bicycles, just some general property. But then I think what often gets a lot of attention, there can be some firearms available. If you have an interest in what is on the bill of sale, I would direct you towards the City of Bismarck website, bismarcknd.gov. I believe the auctioneer, as it has been in the past, is Thompson's Four Winds Auction. So if that's your preferred site for information, you can go there too. But it'd be this Saturday, May 17th.
All right. And then finally, if you didn't get a chance to see the City Commission meeting last night, please go to dakotamediaaccess.org or download our apps. Better yet, DMA. That's the logo you'll find. Also our Radio Access 102.5 app, so you can find us wherever you are, whenever you can. So if you're out on a sandbar or at the 4th of July celebration, you can always call up government or community access programming.
I have one more thing. We didn't talk about this before, but I would be terribly ineffective as my job as a member of the Bismarck Historical Society, which is something I do outside of my city work. But I have to mention today is May 14th. Today is Founders Day. Today is Bismarck's 153rd anniversary. In 1872, this town was first sited as Edwinton, and it was the end of the Northern Pacific Railroad at that time. So, today, May 14th, the day we're recording this episode, it is Bismarck's 153rd birthday.
Well, and I guess I'd be remiss in case my wife's watching. It's our 14th anniversary.
Wow.
So we share
Congratulations.
some history with Bismarck. So we both had one more thing to add. Jason, as always, appreciate your time and really helping us get perspective on what happened at last night's meeting.
It's always a
thanks
pleasure.
all for watching.
For more information on what was discussed in this episode of City Current, visit bismarcknd.gov or call 701-355-1300. If you have suggestions, comments, or issues you would like addressed in future episodes, contact us at info@freetv.org. This program airs on Government Access Channel 2 and 602 in HD, or on Radio Access 102.5 FM. It's also available as a podcast on radioaccess.org and as a video viewing link at freetv.org. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of City Current.